Hey there, Alpiners. Today we're talking about sanitizing your rig. There are a couple different options to sanitize your rig's freshwater system, but let's start with what you're going to use to actually get the job done. What you're going to want to use is bleach and water. That's pretty much the standard for killing anything in the water system that you need to be concerned about. I know there are other things out there on the internet, but if you Google this, you'll find out that bleach and water and just a plain old Clorox bleach is fine. Don't get anything with perfumes or no spill or anything like that. Just stick with regular bleach and it'll do just fine. For most of us, depending on your water tank size, for mine I have 2 cups of bleach is what I need to get into my fully filled freshwater tank. With the tank full, which mine is listed as 54 gallons, 54 gallons and 2 cups of bleach gives me the right ratio, and that should take care of anything that I have to worry about in there. So that's the solution that's recommended. That's what I use. I've been using it for a long time, for the last 15 years with various different campers, and it's always served me well. So now the question is, how do you get it into the tank? Well, that's kind of interesting. If you have this kind of valve on your Alpine, even this is an older one, they make a newer one now. I know that they're constantly changing this, but if you have a valve that has the winterized / sanitized selection on it, don't use it. Don't use it by itself, because that valve is only going to allow you to, when you select this valve, this becomes basically suction, and with the onboard pump running, this will actually draw fluid from a bucket or a container, which I covered in a previous video when I installed this system, which we're going to talk about how this works together to actually properly sanitize it. But that's getting ahead of myself. So for right now, let me explain that if you turn this to sanitize and you hook this with a hose to a bucket of bleach water, which is what I have right here, it will draw it in. The problem is it only goes into the lines of the water lines in the camper. In other words, it will go to the faucets, it'll go to the shower, it'll go to the toilet, but it will not go to the tank. So while your water lines from here to the faucet or to the shower head will have a bleach solution, it will not make it to the tank. Now that's got 2 problems with that. Number one, you're gonna have a much higher chlorine solution than you intended to use, because 2 cups of chlorine bleach is intended to sanitize the whole tank. That's 40 or 50 gallons of water. If you don't get that diluted back there, you're gonna end up with this insane high chlorine mixture into your tank, or into your lines and out your faucets. That much chlorine bleach is not good for a lot of things. It's very corrosive material. It has to be diluted properly, and you're not going to get that dilution. So that's number one. Number two, that's the first problem. The second problem is, if you use this alone, you never get any sanitizing done in your water tank itself. So whatever water has been sloshing around back there, even if you drain it, there's always probably a gallon or 2 of water that just can't get out. I've never been able to completely drain. I know it's a low point drain, but there's going to be some water in there. I live here in Florida, so with the hot temperatures, that water being back there is a perfect breeding ground for bacteria. And if you use water from your tank, like for boondocking, or if you pull over at a rest area and you get water out of that tank and you haven't sanitized it, or worse, you thought you sanitized it, you haven't. Once again, this will not send a sanitizing solution to your freshwater tank. It will only send it through the lines. It's going to leave the whole tank section unsanitized. And if you only use city water and you never boondock, that might not be a concern for you, but we just started doing a little boondocking, and I want to be able to clean that tank. So as you've seen probably on our owner's forum, Chuck has posted a few times the proper sanitizing procedure with the amount of bleach. Now he pours his through his hose and then connects to city water and fills it. That works the same way as what I'm getting ready to show you. I just have a different method for it. But the bottom line is, his method and this method end up with that solution in the tank, and that's what you want. You got to have that stuff in the tank, because from the tank, once the tank has got the proper chlorine solution in it, then you just open up your faucets all around your camper, and then it draws it out from there, and you're good to go. So that's why it's as important. So that sanitize marking on there is a little misleading, to say the least. Okay, so a minute ago I mentioned that one of the methods that has been talked about on our owner's forum is to fill up your hose, your city water hose, with bleach water. You can do that. You can certainly, and I've done it actually before I'd made this modification. I would take my hose here and with a funnel, and I would fill up the 2 cups of bleach. It takes a little juggling, but you can do it. You can basically fill this hose full of bleach, then connect the hose in here, and then the other end obviously to your city water. Turn this to tank, the tank fill selection. Turn on your city water, and voila. It's going to, the city water is going to pump that bleach through the valve, and it's going to go directly to the tank. Fill that tank up until it overflows out the side, or until you get it full, and shut everything off. Disconnect the city water hose if you want to, or turn this valve off if you have one, and then you're going to turn this valve to dry camping. Go inside the camper, turn on some faucets, turn on all the faucets one at a time until you smell that bleach water, and you will have successfully sanitized everything. And then you're going to want to let it sit for a few hours. I actually do mine overnight, just to be certain that everything is killed. So that's pretty much it. It's very simple to do. That's if you want to use the hose method. Now, if you've seen the video I did not too long ago on installing this setup, I put this in because I wanted to be able to fill my freshwater tank when we're boondocking. And I wanted to do it without having to bring an external pump with me, a drill pump, a battery operated pump. I just didn't want to do that. And also, I'm a fireman, and I've had many hydraulics classes in my life, and I understand how water works. And so taking a quick look at this, I knew that the machine was capable of drawing in what we call in the fire department a draft. So I knew it could do it. I just had to figure out how to do it. There's another video that I put out which explains how this works. And when I installed this originally, which was very easy, by the way, and pretty inexpensive, I highly recommend it if you do a lot of boondocking. This eliminates any external equipment needed other than the container to put the water in. But it's very easy to do. But when I did it, it was only to fill the tank. And it wasn't until afterwards I realized, wow, this could also be great for sanitizing. So I'm going to show you how my sanitizing works right now. Okay, so the alternative method for sanitizing, if you don't want to do the fill up the hose thing, again, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing wrong with that. It's just I installed this to make my boondocking a little simpler, and as a byproduct, it's also made sanitizing it more simple and more effective. All right, so what I do is I start off with, I got a 5-gallon bucket full of 2 cups of bleach, and I just fill the rest of it with water. So that's ready to go. Obviously, make sure that's clean water because it's going into your tank. It's very simple. I have a quick connect here. Okay, I put that in there. The other end of this goes into the bucket. That's that simple. Then I just turn this valve to winterize / sanitize. Ordinarily, as I said, that would only get your lines coated with the bleach solution, and that's not what we're looking for. But with the addition of this valve I put in, this now will go directly to where I need it to go, which is the tank. All right, so I've got this little valve here, which you may or may not have something like this. So you got to make sure that that's open. These have to be airtight, so make sure that these are good and snug. Otherwise, if it pulls air through here, it's not going to prime. With that on, and I have the water pump already turned on, for me, this valve you don't necessarily have yet, but I hope that you do eventually. All I have to do now is open that. And you hear the pump come on, and the pump is running because I just opened up a place for the water to go. The pump has a demand sensor. Or once it reaches the max PSI that it's set for, these pumps shut off. So with all the faucets closed, that's exactly what's happened. But when I open this, this opens the valve, which allows this water to bypass and go straight into the water holding tank, which is what's happening now. That water, this is already down about a quarter, is being drafted right out of this bucket. Now, if we were just filling this up for, boondocking, then, I've got a 55-gallon plastic barrel that I just got, and I'm converting for this purpose. So I'll be able to fill my tank pretty quickly, and I don't have to make a lot of trips. But on the trip that I just tried this out with, I had 6.5-gallon jugs, and I filled them up pretty quickly. But we're already half down on this, so you can see the pump does a great job. And the beauty thing about this is I don't have any extra equipment. This is already, the rig can do it. All you got to do is just do a little minor plumbing change, and you're using the system for its full capability, in my opinion. So what's happening right now is we're down to about a quarter. You can see this only took probably a minute and a half, 2 minutes. We're almost done. And again, this is 2 cups of chlorine and 4 or 5 gallons of water. It doesn't matter how many gallons of water are in here, because you're going to top off the tank itself with fresh city water, or wherever you get your water from, as soon as this is out. And that will give you the proper ratio of bleach and water to sanitize but not destroy anything. Because like I said, heavy bleach is bad on rubber gaskets, O-rings, and also even stainless steel. I know there was someone had a problem with rusty sink. Careful with that. Okay, so let's say it took about 2 minutes. It drained that 5 gallons. I'm going to come over here and shut this valve. I'm going to shut this valve, and I'm going to turn off my pump. Okay, the hose is pulled out of here now because I've emptied that bucket of bleach solution into the water tank, and I'm swapping that out now for my city hose. It's kind of hard to do with one hand, but I got it. Okay, city hose, opening this up. Now my city hose is off right now because I don't want to move this valve under pressure. It's not a good idea to do it. And remember, you want to go clockwise with this valve. It actually says it. These valves they go bad pretty easy. But mine's 2 years old and it's holding up pretty well, but I've been careful with it. So no pressure here when you move it, and always turn it clockwise. Otherwise you'll foul up the cartridge that's in there and the O-rings. And even if you follow all the instructions, you might still have that happen. But what you want to do now, though, is you want to fill the tank the rest of the way with water. So go to tank. This is open, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on the city water. And I'm going to fill this up until I see a little bit of water coming out of the overflow in the rear. And that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, tank's filling up now, or it has filled up. We've got some overflow here. Okay, the water tank is now full. This is off. There's no pressure on this valve anymore, so I don't need this. Now, to get the final part of the process done, you now have, let's just recap, you first filled the tank full of your bleach solution once that bucket was empty, or if you use Chuck's hose method, which either one, I can't stress it enough, they both work. There's nothing wrong with either one of these. It's not one's necessarily better than the other. It's personal preference. But either way, as long as you get your bleach water back to your tank where it belongs, this is what we've done. And then we filled the tank full of water, just regular water, till the tank was full. Then that gets you the 2 cups of bleach per your full water tank, which is what you're supposed to have. The final piece of the puzzle is to go ahead and switch this up to dry camping, because that's the way that you need to have it, so that you can then draw that water out of your tank and through your faucets. And I apologize if a lot of this is very redundant and you guys already know this, but I know we have some newer members and they might not have messed with this stuff that much, so some of this is for our newer members as well. But anyways, you're going to go to dry camping, go inside the camper with the pump running. The pump has to be running. You can go ahead and disconnect this, because you're not using outside water now. You're using water that's on board the camper. So make sure that's you don't need any, because you don't want to get confused. So just go ahead and take that off. Be in dry camping mode. Make sure your water pump is on. But go throughout the camper, turn on the faucets and the sinks, turn on the shower, both hot and cold. Let it run until you smell that chlorine. It's very unmistakable, the smell of bleach. Once you have that, then you know from the water tank through the lines and all the way to the spigots and faucets, you're good. You're covered, you're sanitized. And then let that sit in there for a couple of hours or overnight, and then drain your tank. Drain that tank all the way out, fill it back with fresh water, and run this again until you don't smell any more bleach. You want to get that stuff out of there. It's not good, obviously. That's going to be a pretty strong bleach. So get that out, and it may take a little bit to do it, but if you fill your water tank back up and run it for a bit, you'll get it out. After that, you're good to go. I hope this has helped, and happy trails.